Welcome to Group Dates and Hot Takes. I'm Sampy.
I'm Christy.
Let's talk about Married at First Sight. Well, Christy, it's a little hard to believe that we are now 15 weeks into this season of Married at First Sight. It feels like only yesterday that we saw these beautiful couples for the first time as they prepared to get married. And here we're what
It's a long season.
Yeah, but we're less than a week away from decision day. I mean, it's probably going to be another couple episodes.
Oh yeah, I was about to say it's not next week.
I look, I'm aware, but that doesn't change the fact that in the show timeline, we are less than a week away from decision day. And that's pretty exciting. I'm maybe less optimistic than I once was, but here we are.
Things are falling apart.
Oh boy. Let's get into it.
Which couple should we start with?
Let's go with Stasha and Nate. Why not? Let's do it.
So these two seem to, I don't know, it seems like they're moving forward past the experiment, which is a little unusual because we see them going to Stasha's new home.
So what do you mean by the experiment exactly?
So like usually I feel like we don't see couples like touring their new home they're going to live in after the 8 weeks.
Okay, gotcha. So yeah, currently everyone's living in a neutral place. So I guess my question for you then is how do you take that? Because there did seem to be some rockiness for them this episode, but also you're saying this is a bit out of the ordinary. So
yeah, I mean, it seems like they're building for the future. It seems like it should be. It seems like at this point, at least, they're both like, yeah, this is going to be a yes.
So should we talk about Stasha's place then?
Yeah, it's a very nice place. Very pristine and clean and tidy.
Yeah, I guess this is her condo, I think. But yeah, it's very, I mean, even so when they were in this place, Nate looks out the back door of the place and sees that there's a tiny little yard, and Stasha's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pour concrete over that. Because she doesn't want to deal with the maintenance of a yard.
I mean, I can understand that too.
I get that. I truly do. But it honestly is probably very, very small. So you have to do very minimal maintenance on that, to be honest. I feel like it's just easier psychologically for her to be like, oh, I'll just pour concrete over it, because then it gets to be perfect all the time.
Yes, there's no grass clippings and weeds. And
yeah, but here's the thing. Concrete gets dirty. Okay?
That's true.
You have to power wash it.
She'll hire someone to do that.
I know, but why couldn't she just make Nate deal with the yard like he said he would? I don't know. It's just funny to me, the level of pristine,
I mean,
that she requires.
She wants them to wear socks so the oils from their feet don't get on the carpet, which that to me is a bit too far. You should be able to walk around bare feet in your own home.
The oils. Oh, that was so funny to me. Yeah, she definitely likes to keep her castle a certain way. Nate was commenting on just how white everything was, particularly, yes. And this was sort of a theme for them, this episode, but talking about kids and stuff. And he's like, even this pillow is hella white.
It was like Snow White, basically.
Yeah, I guess she talked about later how she wanted like a white and black theme with splashes of gold. I don't know. It just...
The house does look nice, though.
Yeah, she knows what she's doing. It's just I personally cannot bring myself to care that much.
Yeah, at some point, like, you have to be able to live in your house. Like, there was not a speck of anything out of place. I mean, I guess she's not actually living there yet, but we still.
I mean, we at the very first time we met Stasha, that was talked about though. How she does, like, everyone comments that where she lives looks like nobody lives there. You know, where meanwhile, you know, I have random couch from Costco, random dining room table from Habitat for Humanity, like. But everything there is coordinated and just perfect in every way.
I thought Nate was correct to bring up his concerns about when they have kids, like, things are going to get dirty. Like, Stasha seems to think, oh, I'll just, like, clean, or I'll keep them from messing things up, getting things dirty, drawing on the walls. I'm just thinking, for everything I've heard about kids, that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, kids can be a handful. I mean, it depends what kids you get, but
no matter what kind of kid you get, they're going to make a mess.
I never did as a child. I never painted or drew on walls. I was incredibly well behaved, so it can happen. Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess I know it was a little weird. Some of his objections or some of his problems, I felt like maybe he was projecting a little bit from his own experience with his mom and all of that, but there definitely were some valid questions there. It just seems like, as you said, Stasha doesn't really see anything changing
when you have kids,
or much changing. When that's
I don't think that's hard to do. Hard to have kids and your life is basically the same as before.
Right. I mean, it is a fundamental shift. And so you do kind of have to recognize that. I don't think that I would necessarily go as far as Nate did. And it was also a little confusing because when Stasha was talking about it in her interview, she was making it sound like the fun that Nate was talking about was like going out clubbing and drinking and stuff like that. I didn't really get that from what he was saying that we saw, but I guess maybe that was just additional context.
Yeah, they just didn't show it, I guess.
Because, I mean, it is so true. When you have kids, you can't have any fun anymore. That's not true. It just makes things a little bit more complicated is all. But she also makes over $400,000 a year, so surely she could afford to hire a nanny and whatnot. So I'm sure that their lives wouldn't have to change as much as a lot of people who have kids.
Potentially not.
Who have kids, but yeah.
We also saw them shopping for
that was fun.
Stuff for her house. They looked at a lot of doorknobs and handles.
Yeah.
Nate wants to have input on the fixtures and stuff, but Stasha has a vision, doesn't want to relinquish that.
So what do you think about that dynamic? Because
I feel like he should just let her design it the way she wants. She clearly has an eye for this. It's not like she has horrible taste and she's just like throwing crap on the walls that doesn't look right. It's like just let her have this.
Yeah, part of me feels very strongly in that way as well. I just wish that there was, and I'm sure there is some way, but I just wish there's some way to at the same time validate him in that way, because I feel like for him that is sort of I want to be involved in part of this, and I don't want to just feel like I'm sort of like an interloper in your world, in your universe, and just 100% playing by your rules. You know, I want to be part of this as well.
I think there's other ways that can happen where, like, I don't know, once he actually moves in, he brings his stuff, they decorate and arrange stuff the way they both want it.
Yeah, but the decorating and everything, like, that's part of what they were going through, that she wasn't letting him have any sort of input in. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is there. I just think it contributes a bit to his feeling of, well, like he said later, of like, oh, well, like, I kind of just feel vulnerable, like, living in your house. Like,
yeah,
if we break up, it's like, bye Nate. So I don't know, but yeah,
I think it's hard though when she's already built this place. It's like ideally he would have been part of like the design and like choosing stuff from the very beginning, but it is, it's a finished place.
I'm not convinced this is the place she built. I don't think she's built the place she's building yet.
Well, but isn't this the place they're going to live in after?
Yes. As far as I'm aware, maybe I'm wrong on this. I just thought that the one that's getting built hasn't been built yet. Like, it's still land, is what I thought. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, she could be building another place. I'm just saying this particular place they're going to live in after the experiment is already like done. Like, it already exists.
Correct. It does exist. It's just there's a lot of stuff within that. So I don't know. We're going back and forth here. It's pretty much saying the same thing, which is that at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, Nate, just like let her have this. This is obviously super important to her to get things just so. There's just a slight element of like, let's also figure out how to make him a little less freaked out about having to just like surrender himself to obeying the laws of your universe.
Yeah,
when he wants to be part of that world.
She's gonna have to, lighten up a tad. Let him in a little bit too.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, he just wants some agency as far as the relationship and all of that stuff is concerned. And so, yeah, I think they can get there. It's just there's always insecurities and past hurt and trauma playing into these things, and so it's all part of that process of figuring out how to work together. So
the next thing we see is them going on a hike, which didn't seem like much of a hike to me. Something more like just a walk to a bench sort of thing.
Well, I think you gotta start stash off slow. She's not like the other lady that's in love with Nate, who could hike all day for him.
I mean, I can relate. So they make chips and guac, and then they have the kid discussion again.
Mm-hmm. This whole time was pretty much just this episode. I mean, was just kid time with them.
Yeah, Nate doesn't think you can have fun.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks going on vacation for a week with kids doesn't sound fun. Which we've all heard a lot of horror stories about that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's always difficulty introduced with that, and all that stuff. Just these are things that can be worked through and figured out. Like,
yeah, I feel like it is hard though when you don't have kids looking in on that. It can be overwhelming.
yeah, especially since Stasha wants to get going on the growing
Pretty soon.
like immediately, like before the show's over.
Well, she is 37, which she keeps saying. So time is
Don't-
ticking.
Don't forget, I have very few eggs left. Not many. Yeah, so kind of, I feel like the rest of this was pretty much them just trying to figure out the kid thing and just like how on edge he was of just like moving into her place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fun times. Do you have any more insight? We got a little bit of the GoPro footage from their house.
Yeah,
hung
that
in the
was
corner.
a little confusing. It sounded like she wants to travel without the kids. Is that what you gathered from that?
I'm not positive whether that was her viewpoint or if like he was saying that they would have to, and it was a little confusing. But I guess
Yeah.
that was just a time when the film crew wasn't there, so we got the
Kitchen footage.
we got the GoPro.
Yeah, and they also talked about his mom. His bio mom was 23. His dad was 36, and so that factored into, I guess, his viewpoint on this also.
Right, and I think that's part of what I was saying about him maybe projecting a bit, like how I guess his mom wasn't ready to be a mom. And I guess this is his biological mom, right? Not his stepmom. And so
Yes.
I guess since he has no relationship with her, he just feels like she wasn't ready to have kids, and so that whole thing spiraled into, I guess her leaving and all of this, which I don't think he can put that on on Stasha. I mean, his mom was what, like 23. His dad was 13 years older than her, so there's a pretty big age gap, and then she was a bit young. But like Stasha is 37, in a bit of a different life and financial situation.
Yeah, I mean, she's older than both of them.
different like emotional maturity level, I'm sure, all of that. So I think there is a certain level of stuff that he has to get over in terms of comparing her to his mom, because there really is no comparison there.
No. I still say yes for them.
Yeah, me too. Kids can always be a bit of a sticky issue, but I have a certain amount of faith in them for the moment.
Yeah,
So yes.
Same.
I'm going to say yes. Should we talk about Justin and Alexis?
Sure, let's do them.
Okay.
Well, we start off fun.
Can you really call that fun?
Well, compared to everything else that followed.
Okay, well, fine. Just say it.
Well, Alexis wants to be more freaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she wants to take a page out of Nate and Stasha's book there.
Because they're inspiring everyone.
Not in that way, though. Like, it just felt so violating to do that at dinner with other people.
That was very strange, but funny.
Uh,
So Justin is going to also work on his stamina, and then Alexis quips back, is there a machine that helps with thrusting? These two are such oversharers. I cannot imagine saying that on national TV.
Yeah, there do seem to be some issues there.
Yeah, because like Justin was like in the couples retreat episode, like it went all night, but then Alexis was like, oh, it was over too quick. So like, which one was it?
I mean, I would guess Alexis.
Justin, I guess, is an overseller.
Well, you know, he doesn't want to. I mean, and that's kind of I feel like a fairly common thing in terms of like the guys in particular assign a lot of value to like sexual prowess, sexual ability, and so I feel like it would be a bit embarrassing for him to just be like, yeah, I'll be honest, I was pretty disappointing in bed. So, yeah, that's so fun. I don't know what's going on with these two, honestly. There's so much confusion.
Everything took a turn after this. So he went to go pick up his dog from the training place.
Yeah, Maya's been off at doggy school.
Apparently she bit another dog while there. So things have not improved, and he has chosen to give Maya to his best friend Chris.
For the sake of the marriage, he will do this.
Yeah, this is all very depressing, honestly. All the sad shots of the dog.
I know,
and
so much sad music.
Forlorning and
Yeah. So sad.
So Chris drives away with the dog, and it's just a huge bummer.
A little bit of a downer.
Yeah. And he says, this is my ultimate sacrifice. Alexis had arrived by this point.
Well, yeah, because she had been staying away. Because I guess he brought Maya back from the dog training facility and had her for, it seemed like maybe like a day or two while he was waiting for Chris to come get her. And so during that period, Alexis was staying at her place because she was afraid of the dog, I guess. And then she did go back briefly to like say hi to Chris, but yeah, what do you think about how he described that?
I think, he even said, does that mean anything to you? He wants the kudos and the recognition of giving the dog up for the marriage, which that's kind of a lot to put on someone. And I think Alexis kind of echoed that, where she says, I don't want it to mean everything. Don't want it to be held over my head or thrown in my face.
Right. I mean, that I feel like that's the biggest thing is it can't be a recurring theme, or it can't be I guess maybe future emotional blackmail.
Yeah, that's a good term.
In that, like, it can't be something where later on it's like, wow, I can't believe you would do this.
After I gave up my dog for you.
I gave up my dog for you, or like if you really loved me, you would do this. I mean, I gave up my dog for you. Like whatever context it came up in, you can't have that happen. I just also I get that it's hard and it's difficult and he's attached to the dog, but I have a hard time ranking animals with people.
Yeah.
For better or worse, in my mind, is like, oh yeah, it makes total sense that if getting rid of the dog to make your marriage work, like, is the thing, you should probably do that. Now, I think where it gets a little bit more complicated is that Justin, as you said, kind of he wants. I don't know really how to describe this, but it feels like for Justin, he wants it to be this like, I give up the dog, therefore you say yes on decision day.
Absolutely. He wants validation for that and reassurance. Or this is what he thinks will give him reassurance.
Right. It's just that the dog isn't the only thing in their marriage.
No, it was the start of all their marital problems, but it's since evolved into other things too.
Right, but I'm also just saying like there are a lot of components to a relationship and to a marriage. And so even if you're willing to sacrifice in that way for the marriage, like there are a bunch of other factors that have to be considered and gone through and stuff. And so you can't really just have that be automatic, but he definitely wants it to be automatic because he sees it as a huge thing and he wants her to see it as a huge thing. But I don't think she does.
Yeah, definitely not to the extent he does. So
that's fun.
We also, I guess Justin was talking, I forget who he was talking with. I think it was Nate actually. And he was telling him, yeah, I need affirmation. Like after I've just given up this dog that she's going to say yes. And he asked Alexis in a text message if she's going to say yes on decision day. And she kind of deflects and doesn't answer, I guess. And Justin is upset because he thought they were on the same page. So right after, and as a result of that, now he's at 90% and feels played.
Well,
at 90% no.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
So that is unfortunate. And Alexis is talking with Stasha and recounts this story, and is not happy that Justin doesn't know if he'll say yes because of her indecision.
Right. Basically, it seems to me that Alexis is concerned that Justin is just and a way to describe this would be in terms of like, if my father, for example, goes to a restaurant with you, he cannot make up his dang mind. He cannot decide what to eat until you order and decide what to get, because for whatever reason he can't make up his mind independently about that. It's impossible. And like 85% of the time he'll just get the same thing as one of the other people he's with, because that's how it is. And that's how I feel like Justin is in this circumstance. Like he's
reactive.
Yeah, he's very reactive, and he's like waiting to make his decision based off of her decision versus weighing everything in his own mind and being like, okay, like this is what's happened so far with us. This is how I feel about what's going on. And therefore, I'm going to make this decision, yes or no, based on that, versus, let's see what she does, and then I can go off of that.
He's like ruining the mystery of the final decision day, where like they both show up and neither one of them supposedly knows what the other one's gonna say. Although I've often thought, surely these couples must have discussed this ahead of time, and it turns out, yes.
I mean,
they do.
I mean, if they're intelligent, they should.
Yeah, so you don't get like bamboozled.
Well, just the fact that I think for me, and this is just how I approach things personally, is like I want to have the conversations about important things, and so if you're on Married at First Sight, like what is basically the most important thing of all? It's like, are we going to continue this thing afterwards? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm sure they well, I don't know. Most people should talk about it. Now, I'm sure they don't usually show us the talking about that. Right?
Yeah, I think this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, I just it's real tough for me.
They continue to be hard to watch.
I think the hard thing for me is that they do have so much promise, it feels like, and have so much chemistry at times, and can be seemingly so much on the same page sometimes. So they have like really high highs and super low lows.
Yeah, they really need to get to the point where there are no cameras around. That would probably be a completely different dynamic.
I hope so. I mean, I'm very interested to see what happens after, like on decision day, but then post decision day, because we won't get any away from the camera like discussion about that if they say no on decision day, right? They just go their separate way.
Yeah.
Oh, you better freaking say yes. I need that content.
There was one little small thing where Nate thinks Alexis is a liar and is leading Justin on.
Yeah, Nate doesn't have a very high opinion of Alexis. He didn't have a high opinion of Morgan either.
No. I feel like Nate really sees things the way they are.
Oh, interesting. So you agree with him?
I mean, I don't really disagree with him here.
Interesting.
So, yes or no on Alexis and Justin?
I mean, I gotta listen to Justin here say 90% no. No, I'm gonna go with 100% no for now. How about you?
It's hard to say yes at this point because they both. I mean, we see later on with the group dinner that Alexis is currently at a 90% yes.
I know.
But the 10% is really loud for her.
This is such a classic Justin and Alexis situation. Justin's like, yeah, I'm just 90% no. And Alexis, yeah, I'm 90% yes. I did think that, and yeah, I put this with Kristen and Mitch, which is why I didn't talk about it, but we might as well, because we also got in addition to the workout couple time with Nate and Justin and Alexis and Stasha, we also got, I guess, dinner date with Justin and Alexis and Kristen and Mitch. And I did think it was very, very interesting. Mitch can be insightful, but he also like follows it up with that stupid grin that he has and kind of ruins it. But I thought this question was great because after Alexis said that she's at 90% and that 10% is pretty loud sometimes, Mitch asks Justin, is 90% good enough for you? And he says,
No.
No.
I feel like Mitch was trying to, that grin you talked about, he's just trying to instigate. He's like, for once, someone else is going to have a public discussion that's a little embarrassing.
I mean, maybe. I still stand by the fact that I think it was a good question.
Yes, still.
I just, man, that's... I feel like Justin is acting out a bit here. Like, I don't think he's acting maturely. Like, he's taken a lot of things personally because in his mind, X, Y, or Z should be mega important. Like the dog situation that we talked about. Like, in his mind, that is so important, but he's not taking into account that other people view things differently. And so to Alexis, like, that isn't the ultimate sacrifice. Like, that's just something you should do for your spouse so your spouse can feel safe. Like, and so there's that disconnect there, and it ends up spiraling. So all that to say, I'm not changing my answer. It's still
yeah, mine's still a no.
It's still the same. Still the same. I
guess we can do Kristen and Mitch next.
Oh boy. Okay. Well.
Well, after they get back from the couples retreat, they didn't follow up on this, and I actually thought they were going to, but Mitch mentioned how he really enjoyed the weekend. Like, Kristen was in her element again. He really liked this version of Kristen that was like fun and easygoing. And I thought, man, life isn't always going to be like that. Are you going to be able to handle other sides of Kristen?
Yeah, are you going to be able to handle capitalist Kristen? Hard to tell.
But yeah, they kind of just left that hanging. But so then we learned that Mitch has a conference he'll be going to. He's excited to be the old single Mitch.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable for me.
Like, why would you say that? You're married now.
I don't know. And how he handled this whole conference was a little weird to me.
It was not great.
A little, I mean, like mega weird.
So we see them do this little Zoom date while he's gone, where he reveals he's more social than he has been in years. But he does miss her.
Oh, wow, so nice. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't miss not being around Luna.
Oh,
and
totally.
the snoring. But yeah, Kristen couldn't go with him because somebody had to wipe the wrinkle. Oh, so disturbing. But yeah, so I want to hear your thoughts about how this conference went for him.
Oh, man, Mitch just doesn't know, like, both when to stop talking and also just, like, how to behave. Like,
wow.
Normally, like...
Yeah, because essentially we got this whole download from Mitch because he got back and they immediately went to go surfing.
Yep, on their way to the beach.
Because surfing at the conference just wasn't enough. He needed to go again when he got back.
So he apparently is still hungover. So Kristen is driving. Or was she driving?
Yeah, because he had his feet up on the dash.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, very unsafe.
Yes, very unsafe. Just quick PSA for everybody. Don't be sitting in all sorts of weird configurations in the car, okay? You may think it's all fun and games, but if you're not sitting properly and you get into an accident, you can have all sorts of horrific things happen to you, and like terrible like bones where they shouldn't be and stuff. So please don't do that. Back to the show.
So yeah, he reveals he hit the bar with his coworkers. There was karaoke night. But now he says he's married again and puts his ring back on in the car after Kristen asks.
Yeah, so while he was gone for the weekend, he didn't wear his ring. Oh, boy.
That was a mistake. He didn't want to be... I guess he didn't want any sort of questions or scrutiny. Didn't want to have to deal with that. But come on.
Yeah, I guess his explanation is that he didn't want to... Basically, that he didn't want it to be this thing that he had to then explain to like his bosses and his coworkers and everybody, just like, oh wow, you married at first sight. Blah.
So is he then saying he hasn't been wearing his ring at work this whole time? Like this explanation didn't really make sense to me.
Look, I don't know. All I know is that Mitch was at a Save the World conference with a bunch of smoking hot babes in the hot tub and didn't wear his ring. That's all I know.
Nope. She asked, like, were there any cute girls? And he's like, oh, are you jealous? Like, that's not the right answer.
But also, yeah, I mean, of course, like, whenever you go surfing, there's tons of smoking babes. Like, in fact, like, I'm basically the only guy.
I know, he just kept making it worse. He talked about they hit up the after party up late. Saving the world is stressful. You got to have some fun, according to him.
Yeah, but it sounds like all they did was have fun.
Without his ring.
I mean, he mentioned like 17 different like after party activities. It was like in the hot tub, at the bar, at the post bar, at the pre-bar, at the after hot tub bar, just all the bars.
I'm having a hard time picturing Mitch as a partier.
I know.
I don't see it.
He doesn't strike me as the sort of person who would be sort of loose in a social environment.
Yeah, he seems very uptight.
I mean, maybe that's what all the drinking is for, to provide the necessary social lubrication. That is awful. Honestly, if he was married to anybody other than Kristen, he would have been kicked out of that car.
I know, just terrible all around. So then they do arrive at the beach and go surfing.
Mm-hmm. And with Luna. Luna got to go surfing.
Yeah, that was fun.
Ridiculous.
It looked fun, though.
But also funny.
So then we have this comment from Mitch where he said he is feeling a wide separation between his old life and now being married. Which, that doesn't seem like a good sign to me. It seems like he is reminiscing and wishing for his old life.
That's an interesting observation.
Especially after being gone for however long he was. It seems like he really thrived not being married, pretending.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there is a certain amount of stuff that has to let go of and recognize that, like, in a lot of ways his life is different now and will continue to be different if he says yes on decision day. So, I mean, I get that. Hopefully that's not the case. I mean, it seemed like he did miss Kristen to a certain extent while he was gone. I mean, not enough to not go partying, but I also don't, I don't know. It just seems like he's not somebody to do that, maliciously. It's just he doesn't think about what implications might be. And so that's why he's he has no qualms, describing in graphic detail to her what happened, because it's just like, yeah, this is just how my weekend was.
Yeah, he has some things to learn.
Perhaps he does. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine what Mitch could have to learn. I mean, he's so perfect in every way.
I mean, he does seem very reflective on After Party once again. Much more likable.
Yeah. I mean, always the question is this post-divorce reflection? Hard to say. He really likes to make things awkward, though. I mean, I don't know if I can even bring this up on a family-friendly show, but like when they were meeting with Justin and Alexis, like talking about his partying and stuff, and he left his ring off. He just decided to lean into it, like I guess the awkwardness, and was like, yeah, all I wore the entire weekend was just Nate's penis ring.
Just a step too far.
It was very awkward. I think Kristen could not believe.
I know, her mouth like dropped open.
Oh boy, it's a lot. Well, do you have anything else for them?
Nope.
Okay, well I'm gonna ask you the question. Decision day. It's less than a week away. Can they stay stable enough for 6 more days?
I think they should say no, but I think they might say yes.
You still have so much hatred for this couple. Well, for Mitch, you love Kristen.
It's not hatred. It's just not a good fit.
Okay. Well, you're going with yes. I'm gonna go with yes as well. Why not? Oh man. I mean, I get where you're coming from, where it seems like, maybe you want Mitch to be alone forever.
No, not alone. Just marry someone who has the same environmental ideals as you do.
Should marry one of those hot babes from the hot tub.
Exactly. Or one of your coworkers. Something.
Oh my goodness. Marrying coworkers is weird. All right, well, we have one couple left.
Yes, Lindy and Miguel.
Oh, boy.
I mean, we literally picked back up where we left off last week after
know.
that disastrous dodgeball game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Miguel does admit that he was annoyed and riled up and wasn't actually that angry. But he did seem a bit angry to me.
Yeah, well, he was definitely a bit angry. Whether he was like rip-roaring mad is perhaps a different thing, but yeah, I mean, he tries to kind of walk this back a bit, tries to make an apology.
It's just he keeps like upsetting her and then apologize. It's the same cycle over and over again. And Lindy has reached a breaking point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, she doesn't want to be controlled. Being controlled is a trigger for her. Being that she survived her controlling upbringing. So that's just not good for her. It's not a good fit. Being controlled. It's so sad to me to see the breakdowns when they happen. I mean, there was still so much tension when they got back from
nothing was really
weekend.
resolved at all.
No, they come back and they're like sitting on the couch, still like you see the tension bubbling under the surface, just bloop bloop bloop, waiting for an opportunity, which will happen shortly. What did you think about their little gym excursion?
I mean, Lindy's not a fan of working out, but she's there to support and cheer him on. I mean, I didn't have much room at the gym, actually.
No, it's just everything broke down immediately following.
Oh, yeah, one like her insurance card game.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me. Tell me about this.
I mean, at first it seemed like, oh, this is good. This is what she asked for from him. She feels cared for. And then says she is open to hyphenating their last names, which that was news to me. I hadn't realized that was an option they had talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been that kind of negotiation of like, what is Lindy going to accept? Because that's been a common theme with her, right? Where she has to like, she wants to feel comfortable. She wants to feel safe, like all this stuff. And so she's sort of had this list of things, but I feel like perhaps that list may not be super static, maybe a little changing, given the argument they have.
Yeah, because then it kind of evolves into her doubt, she says, is coming from him because of all of his second guessing. And so they keep talking about the whole last name thing, and then she's like, well, I mean, I could be happy being Loe, I think is what her last name is, forever. And then he's like, well, you can keep it like that then. Just real dismissive and harsh.
I don't know if it was necessarily dismissive, just, I don't know, I feel like and it's not a weakness necessarily, it's just you have to be aware of how that can affect other people. I feel like Miguel is very much an external processor. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not, but he like responds to this stuff that happens as a way of like processing it. And so there are a lot of times where he should probably keep that to himself in that specific moment, because just putting that out there just serves to trigger her.
Yeah, he does process a lot of his doubts externally, at least.
Right.
Which isn't helping.
Right. And so like his reaction, like, and feeling to her doing all this, it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess you really don't, like, fine, you can keep your name if you don't want to be part of this sort of deal. So that's why I say I don't know if it was as much dismissive as more just defensive, and a reaction to kind of feeling hurt a little bit there.
I just feel like he can't expect her to be like, yeah, I'll take your last name, as he's simultaneously saying stuff earlier like, I'm terrified of our issues. Will this even work between us? Like, how is she supposed to go take that step if you're just kind of like on the fence all the time?
Exactly. I mean, I totally agree, what I think is that you have that same exact thing on both sides, like wanting different specific things, but it's like the doubt or the reactions on both sides is causing both of them to be defensive and react in that way. So healthy.
Yeah, this just really is not working, which is such a shame because they were good for so long.
Yeah, it just seems like they haven't been able to get over the specific insecurities that they both have, and kind of work through those things as a team. They kind of, at least to me, it seems like they've retreated in some ways to their own like separate islands, despite like they're still married at this point, but it seems like they've kind of insulated themselves because they both keep hurting each other, and this is where we are now.
Yeah, very unfortunate. And then, as if things weren't bad enough, now we like invite friends over while we are still like arguing, tense, awkwardness.
They needed to invite some friends over for Dungeons and Dragons to blow off steam.
I mean, that's certainly what Lindy did. We had this whole long scene with the Dungeons and Dragons, like the game board and the story, and I honestly was so confused the whole time. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand how the story related to like the dice and the crystals and stuff. I couldn't follow any of it.
That's because you're not a Dungeons and Dragons person.
Did you understand it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm a nerd, okay? I'm sorry.
I didn't know you had played before.
I mean, just very, very limited capacity. I'm aware of it. Because
it just seemed like Miguel was making stuff up.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's the whole point.
Maybe I should stop talking about this game, because clearly I know nothing about it.
Look, I'm not trying to pick at you for not understanding it. It's a specific thing that some people are interested in and some people are not interested in. My observation here was that Lindy is not necessarily the right person to play Dungeons and Dragons with, because it's very much like a big part of it is like that role playing imagination. So like you have a character that has different stats and a backstory, and so like you're like it's this sort of storytelling, going through this imaginary world with your character and having things happen, and that's why you're rolling the dice, because you have to determine what happens in this world at certain circumstances. And it just, from my perspective, it seems like Lindy is not in the right headspace, like as a person, to play Dungeons and Dragons necessarily.
I don't think I would be either then, from what you're describing.
Well, like when I'm talking about Lindy in particular, like I feel like she maybe can't suspend disbelief. Like we've talked about this before, but like she always like laughs at stuff. Like her response to stuff is to kind of like laugh because she feels awkward or whatever. And so you need to have a certain amount of suspending your disbelief, because you have to kind of inhabit that world. And I don't think that it's really her speed.
Yeah, she looked as confused as I felt. I was just like, what is going on?
Well, that also was magnified by the fact that she thought that the storyline he chose was supposed to be a dig or like an analogy of their own relationship.
Well, it did kind of sound like it too.
I mean, it could have been. It's definitely possible that he took inspiration from that. I mean, one of the things with Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm by no means an expert myself, but part of it is kind of going through, and so the DM or dungeon master, I guess, kind of guides things along and has an idea of maybe what could happen, but everything is influenced by the people who are actually playing. But yeah, I mean there were some similarities perhaps, but it's also entirely possible that he was just like, oh, like, I can just kind of take these things and make this more generic storyline. But we didn't really get to find it out because Lindy couldn't believe in it. Like the story.
Yeah.
You know.
A bit of a mismatch there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then we had Lindy chatting with her friend.
Chatting?
Or ranting to her friend. I mean, it was basically just her unloading every emotion from the past weekend, from the couples retreat. I mean, she said he doesn't understand the fundamentals of marriage.
Oof.
Would
you agree?
I just, maybe more like he doesn't execute the fundamentals of marriage. At least recently.
Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Like, he wasn't acting to me like a husband should have acted in the last episode. Like, he might understand what to do, but it's not being translated into action.
I'll give you that. Yeah, he like gets in his head a ton and sort of lets all this stuff loose that ends up kind of punishing Lindy in a lot of ways, when it's like, maybe you should have dealt with that internally and figured out how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way, and instead of coming at her in this very negative way, like this kind of mean way, because I would say like last episode was pretty mean.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, come at it from a more positive direction and be like, hey, like, this is what's going on with me. This is how I'm doing, and like, maybe this is a part you're playing in it. Maybe I'm just not doing great. Because he was saying, like, it wasn't a good mental health weekend for him. And so I don't know where that came from. He didn't say where that came from specifically. So I don't know if it was specific, like, marriage related or not. But you gotta approach things from a more positive angle. You can't just go and attack. So I guess all that to say, I do agree with you there that at least lately he hasn't been acting in that fashion, even though I do think that he knows how he should behave.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but yeah, I continue to feel bad for Lindy because it just seems like she's just been broken down over and over again. Mm-hmm. And there's only but so much of that someone can take. Yeah, she is like sobbing again. It's just
she's getting to her breaking point.
So I guess after the friends leave, I was thinking this as Lindy was ranting, surely the other two people can hear what she's saying, or at least hear that there's like something going on in there. And so it seems like that was true, because Miguel said he was uncomfortable with her ranting, doesn't want to be made the villain.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for him was that he was like not happy that she was sort of talking behind his back, or like complaining about him behind his back.
Yeah, he was basically saying, like, if she's venting, it should be to me. But also, I feel like Miguel has put forth the notion that he doesn't want or doesn't handle that.
And he has said before kind of that he doesn't really want to deal with that.
So then, like, what is she supposed to do? Like she said, I have to let it out somewhere.
Yeah.
She doesn't feel guilty for saying what she said. She also says she has been filtering so much when she talks to him, which is sad too.
Oh, boy.
This is just going off the rails.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes or no?
I mean, this is looking like a no at this point.
Yeah.
They've got 1 week left to turn it around.
Well, I mean, miracles can happen, but I don't know if miracles can happen for Lindy and Miguel.
What a shame.
Mm-hmm. Agree with that. That's for sure.
They just seem broken, honestly.
Yeah, once again, I'm going to say that probably with maybe the exception of Stasha and Nate, though they definitely still need it themselves, but like most of these people should have just been in therapy and not on this show. I'm going to die on that hill.
I just feel like a lot of times you don't realize the issues that you might have until you're in a marriage like this, or until you're in some sort of situation that brings it out.
Right. Absolutely. Which is why I recommend people spend some time actually learning about themselves and maybe even, doing some preemptive therapy before there is a huge issue that comes up so that you can gain some emotional tools for your emotional toolbox. Yeah. So, yeah. Go do therapy, guys. All of you. Everyone from Married at First Sight, all of our listeners, we're going to go do therapy. Everyone should do therapy. Honestly, figure out what's going on in that brain of yours and figure out how you can live a healthy and happy life, honestly. Oh, wow. Well, that was a heavy ending to this episode.
Oh, one last thing I wanted to say about Mitch and Kristen. I feel like every time I see footage of them on the show, I'm like on eggshells, just waiting for Mitch to say something.
Oh, absolutely.
Just the way their scenes are edited, it's like you're just, okay, well, what's about to happen? How is this going to take a negative turn?
Right, like when she was unpacking from the weekend and he's lying on the bed there, I was convinced he was going to say something terrible.
Like, that's not a good feeling about a couple. You're just on pins and needles the whole time.
How can people get in contact with us, Christy?
You can email us at groupdatespod@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at groupdatespodcast.
And I won't go crazy telling you to smash stuff this episode. I will behave myself